Hello and welcome to the Joy of Freelancing number 3. My name's Alan. Today's episode, we've got our guest here. His name's Michael Kove. He's at Michael_Kove on Twitter. How are you, Michael?
I'm good. I'm good. Glad to be here. Glad to talk to you. I am freelancer, and anything to do with freelancing has always been interesting to me. So this is going to be a good podcast.
Beautiful. That's good to have you. It's good to have. I've been before we start. We've met on Twitter, and we've seen each other on Twitter, and you posting various stuff, and it's just really some little things you've helped me, and I've been following you for a little bit, and that's when we crossed paths again. I said, hey, do you want to come on the show? And it'd be great to hear what you've been, basically stuff you've been tweeting, and to hear your story as well, to hear the Michael Kove story right today. It's going to be great. I can't wait. So to start the show, why don't you introduce yourself? Like I just gave you an intro. Why don't you introduce yourself and share a brief overview of your background in the tech industry as a whole?
Okay. I got a couple things to add, definitely. First, you shouldn't take most of the stuff I say on Twitter seriously, because I do it to get a rise out of people. It's kind of a marketing thing, but for me, Twitter is a little bit of a side thing. I don't get clients from there. It's more for fun. I meet a lot of cool people there. I started taking it seriously lately. So in freelancing world, when I started, it was not the cool thing to do. When I started freelancing back in 2003, people would tell me, get a job. I was the weird, unemployed person. And they would say, when are you going to get a real job? My brother would tell me, he's a corporate kind of guy. He's like, why don't you get a real job? What are you doing with this freelancing? And even then, I was back at university. I was at Ohio State studying computer science, was intent to get a job. And I was kind of side hustling, doing website here, website there. And I did get a real job while I was in school. I did get a job at the company where my brother worked. It's a big, big company, world famous company. And I did some operational work, like mindless tasks, and I hated it. I really did not like projects I was working on, the management, the corporate hierarchy, the structure. I just hated it so much that I doubled down on my freelancing, and I was still working the job and picking up clients. And at some point I realized I don't want to do this. Like I'm gonna work until my contract is up. I was on a contract there, and I think I'm gonna go into business full time. I don't want to do a corporate thing. And that's how I started. But again, we didn't have the tools we have today. My outreach was pretty much calling businesses or contacting businesses directly, asking them if they need a website. I used the service Craigslist. It's still in place. It's mostly spam, but Craigslist was my big marketing platform. I would advertise myself. I had an agency of me and just me. So yeah, it was difficult, and people would not take me seriously because I was a student. I was young. Oh, this kid, he's just gonna program my website, give him $500 or whatever. It was like grueling work. It got seriously after I had a series of different business venture. I moved to Florida. And with my buddy, we had all kinds of different business venture. We tried import-export business. We had a staffing agency for Florida hotels in South Florida. We did some random business consulting. We had like a school for brokers, just all kinds of stuff. And I ended up saying, I cannot do this. I need income. I don't like living unknown what's going to happen. So I'm just going to go and get a contract work with the client. So I found a client and I worked for them pretty much full time. It was a startup. And I was a freelancer there, but it was more like a job from early in the morning till late at night. It was a startup. So we all were hustling and the pay was garbage. And that client taught me a lot of things about sales. That was really interesting experience in my life. I learned how to talk to people, how to close clients, because he had his own clients. He was in marketing and advertisement. So I learned a lot from him, and I just kind of figured out where I'm strong, where I'm not strong technically. And after that, it was just like easy. I started outreaching to clients. I would get on a call with them within 15 minutes. I know whether I want to work with that person or not. I got a lot better over the next few years, and
Right.
I've been doing that since. Different directions, but for the most part, I don't rely on platforms. I don't use Upwork. I don't use Fiverr. I know many freelancers that do, and they're okay with that. I just don't want to first share my profit with that platform.
Yep.
And I don't really like most of the clients that go there because they look for something cheap, especially like Fiverr. Majority of clients go there to get something really cheap, not something bespoke and custom.
Right.
I have gotten a couple of clients from there, but it was never like thrilling experience. It was almost like desperation for me. There was one time. Okay, I have to be transparent and honest. When I don't have any clients, what I usually go to is an agency. I go to an agency.
Yeah.
And I do their song and dance, like they give me a couple tests, and they will find me a client.
Right.
If I'm really desperate. But if I'm not desperate or I have a project I'm working on, I'll start outreaching. I'll send maybe like 100 emails per week, and I'll get 3-4 potential leads, and one of them will close.
Wow.
And those tends to be 3, 4, 6 months kind of a projects. I don't do quick projects because now I have a family. I can't really jump from client to client. Like most of my clients right now have been with me for past years, like 2-3 years easily.
Right. Okay.
That's very broad overview.
Big intro. It's good. That's good. And you answered the second question actually. How did you get started? We got that down. We got the Craigslist and starting out and not working at a job. We got all that. Wow. Okay. And what motivated you as well? What motivated you to go down this way? You nailed it. Okay. Let's go into the next part of like a bit about you, right? Like, what are your key skills and technologies that you specialize in, and how did you develop an expertise in those areas?
All right, so this is going to be an uncomfortable answer for a lot of developers. I assume technical audience, it might be very different with creatives, with designers, because they have. I'm not a designer, but so when I was younger, I focused on the technology more than I would focus on the solution, and I'll explain in a second. I would offer my clients websites or specific like stack. I would do PHP, and I would tell them I will write you a PHP website for your business. And I'm like, well, I don't really know what PHP is. I just need a website. And after a few years, I realized like they don't really care about the technology as much, especially like small and mid-sized businesses like construction, roofing. They don't care whether it's Webflow website or I made it custom in PHP or put them on WordPress. So I kind of switched over to, I did not want to just be a website designer. I wanted to be like a system developer. So I got more into CRM, ERP kind of work, and I would look for clients that would need specific custom solution built for their backend, for their operations.
Right.
And that's when I realized I can make a lot more money building a ERP system for a wholesaler than making 10 websites for construction companies. And those projects would last for a year. Like I would start a project and I would ship it, and then there would be maintenance that would need more features. So it'd be like really good ongoing contract for me.
Right.
And technology was my stack was Laravel with Apache, like the basic LAMP stack. But I started kind of departing from the technology when I would get on the sales call. I would talk about what they need, what problems they're trying to solve, and focus more on the solution in the call with the client than the tech stack. And at some point, I had clients that didn't even care what I wrote it in. So I experimented with Node, I experimented with Vue, I played around with a couple other frameworks. At some point, it was like CodeIgniter. So the tech stacks became less relevant. And another part that became very cool is that I could hire help because I wasn't tied to a specific stack. And I happened to have available React developer that I can outreach and say, hey, Jim, do you have like time for the next couple of months? I have a project I need help with, but pick whatever stack you want. You can do it in React if you want. I'm doing the backend, and we would work together. So I wouldn't sell the client the stack. I would sell them the solution, the end result, what they would get at the end. As long as it was popular framework, nobody cared. They wouldn't care if it was Vue or React because you could always find a developer for those. When I did contract, I did a couple of years of contract and work with agencies. Then they did care about the stack, but again, they cared more of my full stack. Like, could I do Node? Can I do Laravel? Could I do MySQL? Can I do DevOps? Could I configure Kubernetes? Like stuff like this. So if I did contract, the stack was important. And the more I knew, the better it was because they wanted to hire one guy to do everything.
Yeah.
Because they wanted to like save money. But when I worked with clients, they cared more about the end result than the stack. So I could hire people for my team and not just be one guy show.
Yeah.
And these projects were big. Like they would last for months. Complex, different, a lot of moving parts.
Right.
So if you are a freelancer in tech and you have to decide if you want to work with agencies, yes, stack will be important. And the magnitude of different stacks you have is important. But if you're working for a business, if you want to do like direct client, it's more about end result. And stack is secondary.
Yeah. Okay. Can you?
That got technical.
No, that's good. No, I was following along. I'm all right. I'm sure everyone listening is following all that. It's not too technical. Might be technical for some, but I know that like you said, it's making sense to me. And all right. Talking about projects, because you've already started talking about projects. Can you describe a project that you are particularly proud of, and why was it so meaningful to you?
Oh, quite a few, but let's pick one that was one of the coolest one of the toughest one. The coolest one was for this company called ASKatona. It's men's shoes company. They ran a Kickstarter campaign. Basically what they do, they build custom shoes in Italy, like men's shoes. And they were the first company to start a Kickstarter campaign for shoes, for men's shoes. And they were the most funded shoe campaign on Kickstarter at that year. And I built them a system to take the pledges, people that pledge for a product.
Right.
Like brief, very short introduction, Kickstarter. People pay ahead and the product gets developed and then they get to pick the product. So we had, I don't want to like say around 4,000 customers because I don't remember exact number. And those customers needed to pick the shoes they wanted from array of, they had about 20 different models and all the sizes, and there's some variations. So they needed some kind of e-com platform, import the pledges from the Kickstarter and give them the choice. If they wanted to upgrade to a different shoe or if they wanted to add more things, upsell them or cross-sell them or add more products to their, like they could buy belts, they could buy shoe horns and a bunch of other stuff. And we added like a gift of socks. So it was like a very procedural e-com solution. They start with this is what I pledged. This is the option of products. The next step, they add more or they upgrade. Then they get upsold like, oh, buy extra shoe, get extra free. And at the end, they pay whatever was extra. If they, let's say they pledged $200, but they end up picking products for 500, and then they would pay. And then we would manage their orders. That order would get sent to the factory. Factory would make it and then ship it back. And all of that was tracked. And if they had an issue with the shoe, they could submit a return or exchange. Wow. And that was all done in that platform. I wrote the whole thing in Laravel by myself. I had like one contractor for a month, mostly for front end. And that took me about 7 months.
Wow.
It was a big project. And they raised like over $1 million in
wow.
Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And another 500 something in upsells.
Wow.
That was like massive. And this is DTC brand. This is a direct to consumer brand. They have no distribution. They just sell directly. And I'm still in good relationship with this client. We're actually friends. We talked. Occasionally I consult him. And there were several other projects I did for him internally. That was the one I was most proud because it was, you can literally see the money they were collecting, the more products they were selling across the world.
Yeah.
Like I helped with that solution. I helped them kind of skyrocket their business into bigger.
Would you say that? Would you say that because you like your project, your coding, like your work, it influenced the Kickstarter campaign, and you saw the results. Usually, you like see like if you do work for a company, most of the time you you can see results, but not all the time. And you don't not directly. So this time it was very direct, and the results were there, and it was just like that good feeling because like you were like you helped that. Yeah, that's mad.
Yeah, because we were most people use Excels or they use a Google form, and it's so crappy. Because of that, a lot of Kickstarter campaigns lose their pledges. They're like, oh, I don't want to deal with this, and they will either ask for a refund or they will just order whatever the first thing. But that product was very complex. They had a lot of different choices, and the upsell was key. And they ran that campaign again and again and again, 3 times.
Yeah.
So it was cool. And I think because we were so successful, we even talked about commercializing this solution, but it never got to it because the owner was more interested in doing his business, not spreading out different avenues. So we might even come back to that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Might even come back to that. So that was the one I actually like really liked. It was fun team to work for, cool client, just overall good experience. The second biggest project, actually it's even bigger project, it's a fantasy sports. Not betting, but it's like office pools. I don't know if you guys run them in Australia. Basically, like brackets for basketball. They do this in States, and in America they do American football pools. You like pick your teams.
Yeah.
And based how the team plays.
Yeah.
You win.
Yeah.
And it's an office thing. Like a lot of people in office get together. They throw in $10 each, and they do this stuff on piece of paper or in like Excel. Or if it's a golf, they will do this in document like Google Doc. Yeah. And it's a mess.
Yeah.
So I found a client who wanted to build SaaS for this, like hosting service.
All right.
Premiersportspools.com.
Nice.
I'm in good relationship with these people. And I built them entire website, front end, back end, administration, infrastructure. I put him on the scalable Kubernetes. Like full stack, the most full stack this shit gets.
Wow.
And that project lasted 2.5 years, and he just started marketing recently because we were adding a lot of features. And in retrospective, I probably should have stopped him from adding so many features and just ship it.
Yeah.
But he was insistent, like, I want to add this and this and this type of pool and this game and this configuration. So, and for that project, I did hire people too that helped me along and still work with these guys. fun projects, a fun project. Enjoyed the client, really good guy. We're friends. We talk outside of just work, like we should shit. See what else. I didn't see the result because there's no. He just started marketing. I'm just now seeing the customers, but just watching something built from zero to full-fledged SaaS, and it's big, it's huge.
Yeah.
That project, that was rewarding, and that was a huge project. There were a bunch of small ones that kind of were interesting.
It's great. That's great.
I think a lot of times I'm gonna try to make this more useful for people that listen. A lot of times developers get into freelancing and they expect the client to give them work to do. Like, here's a task list, get this done. Where a really good client and a really good client to freelancer relationship comes from actual relationship where you get to know their business, understand what they're trying to do, consult and advise them. Like, this would be better to use this technology than this, or we should probably do it this way because of previous experience you have. Like, I consulted this guy on front end a lot because he never done business. This is his first venture. I've seen so many websites, I've built so many websites. I would tell him, like, this interface should be like this, or this button shouldn't be here because it would confuse users, or like user flow or registration or verification. Like, some of the stuff a lot of clients don't understand because they're not, for many clients it's a first business, maybe it's a first startup, or maybe their business is construction. They don't really know what client acquisition is online. They don't understand the funnel, they don't understand the website flow, and you as a freelancer consult them on that. That's where the value comes. That's where you can charge premium. That's where you can actually depart from hourly, or if you do charge hourly, charge a lot higher than just, in the code monkey. The code monkey is the death to freelancing. It's the spin to the bottom price.
Yeah.
Because there's someone who's willing to go cheaper.
Yeah.
And today with AI, a lot of these coders, they just plug it into Copilot or ChatGPT and they got code. They can code really fast, really cheap, and you cannot compete with that.
No.
So the value is in the solution. If you're a freelancer, you're working with businesses, value is always in the solution, not the tech stack.
Not the process, not the tech stack. Yeah, I'll give you a quick example. Actually, I got a client off a platform, for a Squarespace website, right? And he wanted some help. He wanted some help with his Squarespace website, and I said, okay, I can do that. I can, it was pretty cheap, and then he tells me that he hasn't built anything. He's just got a free trial. Like, he's, just started. And I said, hey, I've got a better solution for you. We could build with Webflow. It's actually a little bit cheaper, the cost for you, and it'll be better for you and me to build together, and we'll get something. And he wanted me to show him quickly on screen how to edit, like, the text on the screen. And I just, like, showed him the editor in Webflow, and he's like, "Yep, that looks great." And that was it. It was like 30-second pitch, and he's like, "Yep, let's do it." And
it's a bigger project, probably.
And it's a bigger project. I got a bigger budget now. I got a bigger budget. We're building a site from scratch on a new platform, and I've got a good relation with this client because he's like, "Yep, go ahead, no worries. Here's the deadline. Here's my content. This is what I want." I showed him a template. Like you said, the solution, it's the values in the solution. I showed him a simpler, easier, quicker solution, and he jumped on board, and that's great.
100%. 100%, because a lot of these clients, they overhear on the news or maybe somewhere in advertisement, Squarespace or Wix, everyone's building business on Wix. So they go there, they probably watch YouTube and saw the ad for Squarespace. That's the only thing they know. And Webflow, Wix, there's a custom solutions, there's a Framer, there's so many different platforms you can use, including WordPress. The client would never know that. And your consultation to them is valuable because at the end of the day, what they want to avoid, they want to pay as little as possible for ongoing, like to hosting. They don't want headaches if something goes wrong, if someone breaks into the website, why I'm not a big fan of WordPress, or if site crashes, or who does the backups. Like they want to avoid future problems.
Correct.
And Webflow, it's hosted, it's not gonna crash. They take care of the backups, and it's not gonna hack into Webflow compared to self-hosted WordPress, for example. And then they want a ease of use. Can they use it easily, or do they need to train and tinker with different plugins? They have to go edit code, or can they just type in text? Why Webflow wins a lot of times.
Yeah.
So ease of use, risk management in the future, and it could be more expensive to start. Like Webflow projects are usually more expensive than, say, Squarespace. But if he wants to add a feature and suddenly that feature is not supported by Squarespace in the future, he's stuck. He now has to redo the whole thing.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So there's a projection that needs to be done there. And same thing with tech. Like I had a client that was using some GoDaddy. That's my favorite one. I got so many clients of GoDaddy. It's not even funny because they're kind of abusive towards technically unaware people. GoDaddy will upsell so many services and and things that most businesses don't need.
Yeah.
They rack up their bill. I'm like, dude, why are you paying $300 to GoDaddy for email you never use, hosting you never use, some kind of domain protection? Let's go to Namecheap. Let's go to AWS, or let's go to something that's cheaper or more efficient than.
Yeah. But GoDaddy markets themselves so well that they draw in those like non-technical people. See, like they draw in, that's their target market. Anyway,
I mean, kudos for them, but it's not the best. It's not the best hosting.
Okay, Michael, how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and advancements in technology, and how do you decide to which new skills to learn?
It's difficult, especially today with trends. I don't think it's possible. The way I figured this out, if I know the fundamental skills of programming, like I know JavaScript and PHP, I can always hire. Let's say I need someone for React. I can always hire someone who does React and look through their code and understand the JavaScript part of it.
Right.
Maybe like basic. I mean, I get the framework, but I don't need to be on top of the framework. I can hire someone if I need that talent. But I pick clients where I know my skills are needed, not some trendy. Like, let's say I get a client who wants to do some blockchain stuff.
Yep. Web3.
I'll give them two options. Yeah, like, okay, yeah, cool. They have some project. They want to do some MetaMask stuff. Listen, I don't know MetaMask. I can find you someone who does, or we're just not going to work together because I don't want to produce shitty result. I'm not going to learn on a job and deliver crap and get paid for it. I'm not that interested in this technology, so it's not just my client. I'm okay to say no. Oftentimes I do say no, either by budget or by the technology. I'm like, no, I don't know. I don't know Rust. I cannot work with Rust. Or I had Python client and I said, I can find you someone and recommend, but I cannot take Python project. It's not my thing. And that takes some courage to do, because especially if you need money, you kind of like, hey, I'll learn it on a job. I'll figure it out. It's usually bad. Learn it on your own a little bit, and if you want to pick up a small project just to practice, yeah. But if it's a big project, I don't think it's a good way to do this.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't stay on top, but I do keep track of like what trends emerge. Like, do you remember microservices was a big thing, like
Mi-
about 5 years ago?
Microservices? No, don't remember.
Yeah, everyone. So back in the day, we would write a big monolith application, like central big code base, and it would do everything. Like Laravel was monolith. You have everything in one code base. The microservices were small functions that execute one little thing and one thing only, and you install it on the edge compute where your client, your front end, would just make a request to that function and get a result, but it only does that one little thing.
Yeah.
And it was like really popular. Everyone was switching from monolith to microservices. It was trendy, kind of like Web3. And eventually, they did a lot of studies, and it's not scalable for small businesses because Google and Microsoft and alike, they can scale. They have all the resources and money, but if a small business cannot, it becomes expensive really quick. Instead of just buying a big server and hosting a big application and just paying extra for the hosting, then having all these microservices, like 2,000 different functions. They're difficult to maintain. It requires a lot of labor hours. So they're not as popular anymore. And nobody in the smaller startup space uses them. But it was hype. It was the best thing since sliced bread.
Right.
And today I'm seeing less and less. I think Kubernetes is gonna go full circle too. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's cool for big organization, for enterprise. It's scalable, but smaller business overkill. They can just containerize their environment without Kubernetes. They don't need that much of technology. But I look for directions of the trend. Like, let's say DevOps became very popular for developers. Like, you're not just a developer, you're also an infrastructure engineer.
Yeah.
And knowing that, understanding that to the point where you can do basic setup became important. So I did learn that. New frameworks, they come and go. I know my favorite one, and I know the basics, the fundamental JavaScript, fundamental PHP, and I know Laravel because that's what I worked with. I'm not going to learn some new JavaScript framework because it's popular, because I'm not going to be good at it, and people that been learning it before me, they're going to be better than me. I'm competing with someone who has more experience. I'd rather hire someone.
Right. Okay. Here's one I want to know about you, and everyone will. It's a good one for everyone else as well. How do you market yourself and your services to attract new clients and secure new projects in the tech industry?
Okay, it's a three-part answer.
Okay.
When I just started, when I did not know anyone, I had no clients or just a few clients. My marketing was direct outreach. Back then it was Craigslist. After Craigslist, it was just me writing businesses, either by email or by direct messages. And I have to make a disclaimer. Today, direct outreach has been oversaturated. Those businesses get bombarded with people offering things. When I started back in 2003, 2005, I did a lot of outreach. You could write your local construction business. I mean, local, it could be next state over or whatever. And they might get one or two offers from other agencies, but it was never like it is today. So I kind of modified my direct outreach in past few years. I engage with those brands and those companies in their social media. Ideally, preferably with the owner or director in LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram, wherever I can find them. Let's say it's, I don't do much direct outreach those couple of past years, but let's say it's, I'm working with gyms, like I had at some point worked with gyms. I would talk to people that own the gym. I would find the owner in LinkedIn and I would interact with them directly, comment on their posts or share things with them, kind of build a connection relationship. And then at some point I would DM them and say, hey, look, I saw your website is a little bit outdated. Is it hurting your business? Like, are you struggling with new clients but they already knew me. That's very important, because if you start sending cold emails, even if you're do customized first line and you comment on something they posted, they get so many of those. They get offers all the time. You have to get on their radar before you cold email them. They have to know who you are. Like, for example, those agencies that I worked for, I would interact with them on their social media before I reached out and said, do you guys need some contract workers? Are you overwhelmed with projects? That's part one. Part two, network. I talk to a lot of people, and I talk to a lot of people in physical real world. I have clients that I can call and say, I'm kind of low on clients. I have availability. Do you know anyone in your industry who is looking for this or this kind of solution? Like, that's looking for website or looking for CRM, and they'll either I'll ask around, or I have my actually friend is building a website and he might need someone. So network is huge. Probably 60% of my work in past 7-10 years came from network, from knowing people. And networking with other developers helps a lot, because I can reach out to devs I worked with and say, hey, what project are you working on? Oh, cool. Do they need any additional help? Do they have a project that they're looking for developers for? Like that. But ironically, I have more devs reaching out to me today and asking me if I know anyone, because it's tough for developers. A lot of people got laid off. And the third part is building your personal brand, which I'm doing right now. But primarily, I'm not doing it for clients. I'm doing it more for educational content. I want to stop coding and get out of freelancing, because I think I'm in the next stage in my life. I want to do something different. Not that it's a bad place to be. I just I reached my ceiling. I want to build something different. Personal network. When you consistently engage with people, you'll get noticed. Recently, I think few weeks ago, a guy messaged me on Twitter, and he knows who he is, saying that he's been reaching out to agencies and it's not working for him. So I said, send me DM and tell me what you've been doing. I'll help you. We talked, exchanged a few messages, and now I hired him for the project that I lead at my current client. So network, personal brand, and engaging with your potential leads. Those three things.
I'm just gonna pause right here. I'm like, my dogs are attacking something at my feet right now, and I know it's a wasp, and it's in my room. I don't know. I just need to grab it and kill it before it hurts them. All right, we're back from a quick break, and straight into some more questions. We had a quick little bit of a emergency with a wasp in my room and my dogs, so I had to quickly pause and get rid of the dogs. And I don't know where the wasp is. It's somewhere in the corner of my room, but I'll deal with it later. And yeah, sorry about that, Michael.
That's fun.
All right, back to what we were just where we left off. You were just answering so you were marketing yourself in a 3-part answer, and I got all of that. So we won't. I don't want to hold you up too long today. So we'll chop that question. We'll say, how have you navigated difficult situations or conflicts with clients, and what have you learned from those experiences?
I think client conflicts are different from employer-employee conflicts, because with the client, you can just say, we're good. Like, sorry, we can't go on. Usually, I put a lot of effort into screening clients I know I will have conflict. And that's very difficult to grasp if you're just starting, because you just need any client, because anything that pays is good. But it's important to look for red flags. Are they trying to negotiate on price? And are they trying to assert their expertise where they don't have expertise, like in technology, that if they're not technical and they insist that we use certain technology, that's a red flag for me, because you hired me or you want to work with me because I know something, but you insist we use this technology and you don't have a good reason for it. I try to avoid clients that are adamant about specific way of doing things without good reason for it. Business reason, not just because they felt like it, or not that because they heard about, oh, I heard that you're supposed to code it this way. I ask when I get on the call, discovery call with a client, first I talk about the money. And that's where I get most of the sense of bad client. We're going to have conflicts if they are anxious to talk about the money, or they postpone this conversation and say, well, let's get started and then we'll figure this out, kind of thing. Now, if I'm not within your budget, there's really no point of talking further. I cannot work with you because I have my minimums and you have your expectations. I listen to what they expect out of me. And if they expect something like, oh, you got to be here from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. and you got to be on call on the weekends, I say no, because that's going to be conflicting situation in the future, because I don't want to work like this. I listen to how they talk about other freelancers. Like, for example, big red flags, like I got scammed on Fiverr or Upwork. Like, okay, what happened? And they would go on, oh, this guy, I told him to do this and he didn't do it like I told him. And then he just talk shit about other freelancers. And that's a red flag, because they don't know how to work with people. And there's going to be a lot of conflicts if they don't know how to work with people. The good response I hear, yeah, I got scammed. I should have checked him out. I should have asked for reference. I should have, but I didn't. So I paid and he disappeared. Well, they take responsibility for their mistakes.
Yeah.
That's one thing I look for clients to, like, I will ask questions. So what's going to happen if we build this and things don't go as you plan? Let's say marketing doesn't work, or you don't get the customers you want, you don't get the clients you want, your website doesn't perform as well as you thought it would. What's going to happen next? So, well, I'll have to deal with the consequences. We'll have to pivot. We'll figure out the solution. They are proactive in solving the problem. The bad clients will start, oh, you should write it so it works, or no, it's going to work. It's going to work. I know it's going to work. There's this blind confidence, because you have to understand a lot of clients are not experienced business owners. This is irony. Like, a lot of those people that go to Fiverr and Upwork, and I know you get clients from there, a lot of them are just starting their first business, and they don't really grasp what the business is. So they assume a lot of things is going to happen. And they assume that you're going to solve their business problem and things will be great. The most important thing is to make sure they understand that it's their business and it's their responsibility to take what you built for them and use it to generate revenue, to cut down overhead, both, or even maybe they use it to get funding. I've built a couple MVPs that they took. They got a couple of users and they showed to the investors and they got what they wanted. They got the money. So it's their responsibility to make sure business works. That's why I never work on equity, almost never work on equity, because if I fulfill my promise and I deliver the product, but they don't market, they dip out and drop the business, or they don't secure the financing, or some other things happen, so I'm at a loss. And I had no control over that part of the agreement, unless I trust the person, unless it's my friend, or I know that person is legitimate at what they promise to say. I never do equity, like work for now and then get paid later. No, I'm not in that position to do that. Something else, conflicts. If you build good relationship with the person, you resolve that conflict like you would resolve it with a friend. It's like, okay, all right, chill out. Let's talk about this. Like, what's going on here? Like, what's the real problem here? And that's usually the question I ask. Like, you are upset about this. What's the problem here? Why are we discussing this? And usually the problem is not what they typically say. Usually it's something like they got in an argument with their wife and they're upset, and you did something mildly wrong, and it just triggered them. Because everyone is human. And you just tell them, okay, let's talk about it like tomorrow. Or think about this, I'll think about this, we'll come back to this conversation in a few hours. Usually, if it's a conflict, it's something that can be resolved with conversation. If the client is an asshole, I'll refund him the money and say, you know what, we're done. Like, here's your money back.
Okay.
It gets harder if you realize they're an asshole third way through the project and you already done some work, but you just you're up to time and say, I should have been more diligent about filtering out assholes.
Yeah.
That's why network is important. I think having a good solid network where people recommend you clients is critical. And I cannot state that now, especially now. There are so many clowns out there from both ends, from clients, everyone wants to own a business. It's a new cool thing. I'm going to build a startup. I'm going to make millions. It's going to be next Facebook. Why don't you work for a third of the pay and I'll give you equity? No. Sorry, no. No.
All right. If we got two more questions. If we can, I really want to. I want two more quick questions, and it's really advice for it's advice for me and the listeners. 2-part question. In your opinion, what's the most important qualities to have or traits for a successful freelancer in the tech industry? It's a
multidimensional thing, but people skills probably.
People skills, yeah.
At the end of the day, you're selling yourself.
Soft skills, that's it. Yep, soft skills. Yeah. Yep.
And it goes beyond just soft skills. It's intuition for what people want, intuition for what they're looking for, kind of feeling them. You talk to a potential client and you get the sense whether it's going to be a good client, bad client, but you also get the sense that they're going to pay on time.
Yeah.
Are they a good-hearted person? Are they, do they hold their word? If they say they will do something, are they doing it? Or they promise a lot of things and then you're chasing checks. I did have a client like this, and the guy was kind of iffy. He was sketchy. But I needed money, so I built him a website and I chased the payment for a month. I'll send it tonight. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, I'll do today. I'll do tomorrow. Like I'm out with friends. I'll do tomorrow. And it's just crap. You have to almost develop intuition for this. But people skills, yeah, that's probably the most important. You can always pick up the tech stack, and you can always hire people to help you as a freelancer. You can hire other freelancers. But being able to communicate is number one. And the second thing is take responsibility for your actions. Everything you do in business is your fault.
Yep.
Bad market, it's not your fault that it's a bad market, but it's your fault you're not prepared for it. No clients, it's really not your fault because the economy is bad, but you don't have either a financial cushion or you don't have acquisition funnel, or you didn't develop acquisition funnel, you don't have a network. So the first thing you should do, not you, I'm saying just in general as a freelancer, is start working on things that will be necessary 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now. If you have a project that will be over in 6 months, start outreaching today. Kind of foresee the future and predict things that are not predictable. Because with employees, when you're an employee, you get paycheck. You know every Friday you're going to get paid. what if your client does not send the check? What if your client does not pay on time? What if you do the work and the client just goes and gone? Do you have extra cash saved up? Yeah. There's a lot of planning and self-responsibility, and that's hard, especially if you have a family or you have to support other people. That was the biggest lesson I had to learn hard way.
Okay.
And I'll get into this really quickly. Give me one second. So I'm originally from Ukraine. I don't know if you guessed from my accent.
Yep.
And I moved to United States. I lived there for almost 20 years, and I returned back to Ukraine to be with my family because going back and forth was very difficult. I have kids in Ukraine. I have a wife in Ukraine. And when the war started, I was not prepared at all. I was not prepared, and to quickly pick up my family from eastern side of Ukraine, move it to a different country was a hellhole. If it wasn't for my brother who helped me financially, I probably wouldn't manage to get out of there. So the point is, I did not prepare, and it's 100% my fault. Could I predict that? Absolutely no. But now I'm prepared for any situation where I have to pick up and leave. If I have to pick up my entire family and leave to go to a different country or go to a different continent, I'm building a structure where I can do that.
Right.
And that's my number one priority.
Right.
Because if you're not prepared for catastrophe, it's a disaster. And obviously I couldn't work, I couldn't do anything.
Right.
So in freelancing, every day could be a minor catastrophe. Your client drops out, your client doesn't pay, you don't get a client. And if you're not preparing for this, it's going to be difficult to run business like this. And freelancing is a business. So self-responsibility.
Right.
So these two things, people skills and self-responsibility.
Good. That's good. That's really good. Last question of the night, and then I'll let you go. This is the big one, and we saved it for the last. It's the big one that everyone's going to be listening for. What advice would you give to someone considering freelancing in the tech industry but is unsure about making the leap?
I did give this advice to on Twitter, and people kind of took it the wrong way. Two situations. If you're just fresh out of college or you're fresh out of school, you have zero experience in the world, I recommend get an internship or a job at an agency that does what you want to do. Just to get the ropes in to understand what the real world looks like. Because the students that come out of universities or even high school kids, they don't understand what client business relationship looks like unless they had a family business or their parents had a business. They don't understand why people buy, how to sell. You have to get a job. It's unfortunate, but diving into business by yourself without experience will lead you into path of trying things and failing and learning your lessons, but sometimes they're just wrong lessons. Let me try to expand on that. You can do wrong thing for a very long time and be stubborn about this, thinking that consistency and persistency wins, but if you're doing the wrong thing, you can persistently and consistently go into coal mine and mine for coal, but it's a labor's work and you'll never become a millionaire or make significant money doing that, where someone can say, hey, look, why don't you go and mine gold over there? Don't mine coal here, mine gold. Because gold you can sell for more. Not knowing what you're not knowing is the biggest risk there is. So if you're new, out of college, out of school, get internship for a year or two, at least 2 years. I think 2 years is a good mark, and get those repetitions in. It's going to the gym and not having a personal coach to show you how to do exercise properly. If you've never seen it done, you never have anyone show you, you will hurt yourself by lifting wrong weight or wrong form. If you're experienced, you have been working 9 to 5 and you want to dive out, I'd suggest pick up a couple side projects on the side on the weekends or in the evening, because you might not like it. You might not even like it, because freelancing is brutal. It's all about business. Money comes first, unfortunately, because if you don't pay your bills, you have to go back to get a job, and that's sad. You don't. I don't know. I think a lot of people like idea of freelancing, but when they get to actually doing it, they realize they're better off mentally working for a startup or some innovative company that loves and treats their employees well and has good vacation package and like fun place to work for. I did work for a startup like this, like short period of time, and it was fun. It was fun. But I have different, I don't want to be tied to a place. I have different motivating factors. So try it on the weekends. Don't like it, find a really cool, fun job and do that, because, and you can still build your side projects. You can still pick up a project here and there, but you're not relying on freelancing us. And if you really don't, like really want to dive in, network, talk to people, build your personal brand. That's probably the most important today, because businesses want to work with businesses and people want to work with people within that relationship. So when you talk to a business owner, it's a person and you're both communicating why people skills is important, and they want to know what you're about.
Right.
Being anonymous online and having funny nicknames for your GitHub portfolio, it's fun within the community, but when it comes to working with people, they want to see a person behind.
That's
like
right.
I always get on a video call. I get on. I do Loom. I do a lot of Loom presentations with my face, my video there, because they want to see who they're working with, especially remotely. I think that's pretty much it. It's if you're new, get some reps in working for someone else, internship or even contract work. If you're experienced and you understand the freelancing network, pick up a couple projects, and maybe even do contract too. Maybe you want to dive into freelancing by working for someone else as a contractor.
Right.
It's kind of hybrid. Contract, in my experience, is hybrid between work and being freelancer.
Right. Interesting take. Wow, we'll wrap that up today. Thank you so much, Michael, today for joining me. Thank you. Sharing your story, your advice for me and everyone listening and watching. And just before you go, where can people find you, connect with you, and where can they hire you?
I don't take clients because I'm fully booked. So I'm probably not gonna, not for hire, but they can find me on Twitter. I think Twitter is my central entrance point to everything else I do. I do have a YouTube channel, but it's still in process. I'm figuring out my direction. It might not even be freelancing altogether. I might do something completely different.
All right.
But Twitter is where I mostly talk about freelancing.
Okay.
I'm starting a community soon. There's a Twitter link to that. It's going to be mostly tech community for freelancers, and we will talk about using modern technology like AI to speed up the work, how to find clients outside of just going to Upwork and posting on Fiverr, and how to run freelancing as a business, because I want to focus more on teaching that and sharing my experience how I turn that into a business rather than just coding for random people.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. We'll check out Michael_Kove with a K. Kove.
Like love, but Kove.
Love, but Kove. Thanks to you, the listener and the watcher. We'll catch you again. I'm ASKatona.com for everything, including the coming soon Joy of Freelancing newsletter on Substack as well. We're going to put some bits and pieces from the podcast in the newsletter. If you miss the podcast or you miss something, you might catch it in the newsletter coming soon. Sign up at ASKatona.com, and we'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.